It's so good to see you all guys. Again, it just seems like I saw you a few minutes ago. Today we are talking about fear and fear to love. And in my own journey, I've been really looking at the physiological response of fear. And one of the things I noticed about myself is I could be watching TV and not really having many thoughts at all because I'm watching TV, but I'll notice that like my back is arched or I'm holding my body really tense or tightly, and I relax and I'm like, wow, I wasn't really thinking anything particular for my body to be held so tightly. And I started to realize that the body informs the mind. And quite often we think it's the mind that informs the body that we're in fear. Well, the mind holds a belief and the body reacts. But often a lot of the things that set us into that fight, move, get the heck out of here. It is usually these deep unconscious traumas, and we know the ones that directly trigger us because we have a visceral response to them. Maybe we justify, we defend, we worry, we move to fear, we need to be relieved of our angst right away. And then there's those that I call them our dirty little secret, the thing that we keep within ourselves that we don't really want anyone to see about us, but we know it about ourselves. And that when something happens, we usually lead with that. And that's typically the idea of I'm not enough, or I had a thing where it must be me. Anytime anything went wrong, I was brought up, it must be me. This is mine to fix. I have to do it. And spending more time with my parents, I've learned where a lot of these ideas and beliefs have come from. And one of the things I've recognized about my mom recently, at no fault of her own, because it was probably inflicted upon her as well, is the idea of withholding love. If you did something wrong, or you made a mistake, or we are held to a degree of accountability that probably most children cannot measure up to. And her way of probably trying to correct the behavior so that we didn't suffer the same indignation she did being in a Catholic school was to really prove her point the best way that she knew how. So I started to recognize this, not necessarily that action towards others, although that probably does come about. It's more of when that's happening to me, how I run inward and can be triggered very easily, sometimes without even knowing that I'm triggered. And so one of the things that we really come to do is to find relationships that trust has been built with, that they've earned your trust, that you can share these things. And, being a verbal processor, for me, I got to find the person that allows me to talk openly until I'm done. And luckily I have Fish, but she does learn to put a timer on it. Because getting it out viscerally is a physiological release of the body in itself. It brings you down. And then what I've learned is to then go and look at it and see what is there for me, to see what my body was trying to tell me. Now, I recently saw on probably Instagram or something, this nurse that was showing a healthy brain, and then it had the backbone, and then the nervous system. And we use the word nervous system dysregulated, emotionally dysregulated a lot, but I don't really think I ever stopped to recognize how vast the nervous system is in our body, and that it literally wraps around every aspect of our inner parts of us, right? That the nerves, and that the nerves are actually the nervous system. I don't know why I disassociated those two. But once I saw how vast it is in the body, and I was looking at this and I thought, wow, that is so powerful. And that in itself has its own a life of itself, that its own viability, and that it actually takes on this life of its own to protect us, and that it is directly connected to the mind. And then the mind's job is never anything new, because the mind is like a computer that just absorbs everything that's happened to you and stores it. So anything that is close to familiar to what you've been through is perceived as a threat by the mind. by the body, it informs the mind, then the trigger happens, and it all happens in a matter of seconds. And then when it's all over, we might have sent that email, we might have had that phone call, we might have go back and reread something. I recently read something, and I was so sure of what it said, and then when I went back to reread it, I was like, oh, I got that wrong. And so, I'm really good at going, hey, I got that wrong. Let me reread it. And sometimes I have to read it to my husband. Sometimes I have to have my husband read it back to me, because we have a framework that we're all working within of how we were raised, what our belief patterns are, our conditioning, our beliefs about life, the planet, the universe, God, and everything is framed in this framework. So you can't really read something outside of your framework until your mind becomes newly informed about something else. So when you are taking something in, the mind cannot experience anything new. You can only taste an orange once, right? And you can only have an experience once, and then once that's imprinted on you, you are forever responding from that space of the time it was imprinted. And the idea of the spiritual journey or the awakening is to start looking at all of that, to kind of turn the lens up on yourself and to learn to do it in a loving way, judgment-free. So, that's what we offer classes for, so that we can start to put the tools in our tool belt to look at those ideas that we hold about ourselves that we want to let go of, to really find the true freedom. And freedom really is being free from the mind and its visceral responses and reactions to the world, and to be able to move. Life is always going to happen. There are always going to be job losses, people dying, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be resolution, there's going to be people leaving and people coming and people going. But the idea that we have about people coming, people going, conflict, is how we're meeting it. And if we want to meet it in a new way and it's causing us suffering, it's our job to do. I remember this talk by Michelle Modrano, I think I mentioned it last, was, it's your button. And when our buttons are pushed, it is our responsibility to look. And sometimes it is quite painful to move from fear to love. Usually, we start by going out. We have fear. We might have had a disagreement. We want to go to that person. We want to explain to them. We want to show them that they're loving. If you're a people pleaser, you want to prove to them that you're loving. You almost need their validation that you're loving so that you can be relieved of the tenseness in your body. And if you've ever recognized when you've let go of the tenseness, or you've unloaded yourself onto somebody else, you feel really good. But we don't really stop to think about how the other person might feel about being unloaded on. But that is their responsibility, and there lies communication and boundary setting. So boundaries are usually the first step in our efforts to move towards love. And it can be quite challenging. And this idea of love, because there are so many, romantic love, agape love, God's love. But one of the things that I heard Audrey Shante, a teacher, say one time is love is fierce. God's love is fierce. And it doesn't always feel good to the mind, because in order to be set free of a deeply held belief, you gotta let go. And if that belief is serving you in your protection mechanism, you are going to look for someone else to be responsible for what you are feeling or how it made you feel. And this does not really mean that there aren't unkind people, or we all know unkind things happen in the world. We see it playing out. But what we are saying is how we are responsible to that is to speak our truth, not our pain, and call it truth. So we are responsible for thinking, dropping in, I would say, giving time between the reaction and the response, and allowing the feeling of the emotional reactivity to dissipate so that you are in a clear space to have a conversation and there's not this ping-pong reaction going on. And when we've given ourselves that time, we've given ourselves love. When we give ourselves love, time, there is no emergency, you'll know when it's an emergency, right? Like, I don't know for the ladies, if you've had babies and you would ask the doctor, your first baby, how will I know when I'm in labor? You will know. So you'll know. And when that time comes, you know. You can't really mistake it. It's the same for emotional reactivity. You can't really mistake it. But what the mind can do is go, oh, you're calm now. Oh, you're good. And then the minute you start thinking about having that conversation or meeting that, whatever it is, and if the body starts to tighten again, we have to pay attention to that and not the voice that says you're ready. When your body is ready to have a conversation, it will be completely relaxed. It doesn't mean it won't be a little nervous. It doesn't mean that you won't play the conversation through your mind, but it does mean that you will be more open and aware and seated in presence to have a dialogue than from the framework or your story where you're justifying your position. We cannot get clarity through being closed off. We cannot get clarity when we are clamped up. We cannot be connected to the higher divine mind when we are so sure and standing on our own principle. So love says, be prepared through your own preparedness. Your self-love, the way you treat yourself, the way you move and have your being, we all make mistakes. How do you treat yourself when you've made a mistake? How do you treat yourself when you've said something off the cuff? How do you treat yourself when there's been a loss and you think you're responsible for it? That is the key to loving oneself, is how you treat yourself is typically equal to how you might treat others. And that's how you can kind of gauge where someone's at. And then, all of these other little parts of us start to interplay with one another. If you're a people pleaser, you attract controller. If you're a controller, you attract a people pleaser. And there's really just this cycle of different personality types that are always attracting another type of personality. And what we look to do is for you to help identify the preservation strategies that you have deployed to help yourself feel safe and not be constricted, so that you can start to look at them in a loving way and understand it's not your fault. It doesn't really matter how you got there. What matters now is you start to identify and learn, and then the true freedom is responding differently. It might not be perfect, but if it's different, you've made progress, and that is love. Love is the progress you make towards yourself on your path home. Now, I think between love, I'll give Sue and John Love the credit for this in their book, as I kind of dissect it and come to my own understanding of it. There's a space between fear and love, and it's faith. When we start to change our trajectory and we start to move those ruts that I talked about last Sunday, and we start to deploy new skills to get a new experience, we have to have faith. We have to develop our faith that there is a power and a presence in the universe that really does have us, that really is helping us look by the people that it brings to us, by the situations that it brings to us, and our level of release to it, our level of acceptance to what's going on is in direct concordance of our fear as well. And things happen. Sue's going to be doing a talk. Her and John will be doing a talk on March 15th where they will talk about their story. But as I was reading it, I was really trying to put myself in that position of how mad I would have been at God. That I quite am often mad at God because I'm mad at myself. And I'm often thinking, what do I need to do to feel 1 ounce of your love? If I feel like just 1 ounce of your love, then I will be able to give an ounce of your love. And someone said to me recently, that's equal to what you give to yourself with your mental attitude. That faith is the bridge between fear and love, and that it carries you. And then the faith also allows you to go the distance for God to meet you where you're at and show you the goodness of your own nature. That it's one thing to be kind to others, but if you are not kind to yourself, it's probably going to come off as inauthentic. But the journey to oneself and an own personal view through tragedy is really developing your relationship with your higher self and giving and letting go of the things that we grab onto, the things that we hold, the things that we keep, that keep us bound to our personalities. And then as we start to let go, clarity starts to come, which allows us to take action if needed. That we find that we don't have to plot action anymore, that the things that support us come our way, and that we call them miracles. Because we've let go of something, something must take its place. And if we are pointed, someone was listening to this gentleman that I follow on Instagram. His name is Mystery. And he was saying, your attention, skiers, now I'm not a skier, so if you're a skier, you can correct me. But he was like, when you're at the top of the mountain and they say, don't focus on the trees. If you focus on the trees, you're going to hit one. But if you focus on the space between the trees, you'll be able to easily navigate through the trees. And it's the same with your relationship with God. It's the same with your relationship with driving. When we were driving up, Fish was like, don't let me miss the Cordish Junction exit. And I go, well, don't focus on missing it. And I was telling her the little story about the trees, and I thought, that is a great principle of release and acceptance. It is so hard for the mind. If you've ever tried to get your mind to stop focusing on what you don't want, it's so challenging. It's so challenging. So you kind of got to give your mind a little break, and you have to do a little self-dialogue. And I think I even asked Sue, how she took that journey. And I don't want to give her story away, but I'm so fascinated with the loss that they've incurred, how the pattern of grief and how they moved into love. And I have not met very many people with the profound faith in God and love that Sue has. It was inspiring to me, because one of the things that I work on always is, God, you got me. Do you really got me? Like, wait, let me just peek to make sure you got me. And I am a definite control freak, so it's very hard for me to let go. And recently in a meditation, I was trying this new practice that someone helped me to kind of deregulate. It's probably a somatic practice. And the tears just came, and I thought, why am I crying? And I realized that I was in this total state of surrender. And it's what I felt was, even in my own little office, I felt complete vulnerability. And wanted to go. And there's just this instantaneous where I wanted to take it all back and put all my armor back on and get up and go do the dishes. It was I felt so uncertain and insecure. And in that moment, this voice came to me that said, you want me to love you, let me. And I thought, but I am. And it just repeated, if you want me to love you, let it all go. Let it all the discord, all the books, all the teachings, all the stuff, just let it all go. Put it all down and just stand naked in front of me and give everything to me and let me fill you up. And I was afraid. I had total fear come over me. And the tears just came, and I couldn't even express to you, the anxiety was worse than any conflict that I ever had. And I just kept saying, please help me. And the most beautiful and profound sense of love came over me. And I was able to sit there and to just, I'm so sorry, to let this embodiment of just the most beautiful, serene feeling I have ever felt. And to me, it felt like a lifetime. It was probably 3 minutes. And I knew in that moment that I was completely held. And it lasted for a period of time, of course, until probably the kids did something, and I was like, rah! And then I realized, it's a practice. It's a becoming. You are already it, but releasing, recognizing, letting go, letting down, it's a self-conversation. Moving from fear to faith to love is a self-conversation of full surrender. Are you willing to lay it down and trust? Now, what happens is a complete clarity. Now, it doesn't mean that we become doormats, and if we don't speak, if we need to speak, we don't. What actually happens is we become so clear about speaking that we are able to do what we call a boundary. We're able to tell the truth about something, and it becomes so clear that that really is love. The fear is the lie that we keep perpetuating every time we're in front of somebody that might be triggering us. And if you're a people pleaser like me, you'll just keep telling the lie because you don't want them to hurt, but meanwhile, you're in deep pain inside. So love is being able to have the conversation with yourself and to completely and totally surrender to the idea that you are held by your own self. Not your little self, but your highest, utmost self. The beautiful part of you that is who we are, but the personality has just absconded with it for a little while. And we are looking at the trees and not the open spaces. I invite you this week to look at the open spaces. And when you hit a tree, just step back and go, oh, there's a tree. And not, oh my God, there's a tree. I ran into it. I always run into the trees. Dang, can you just move the trees, please, so I can get through? And then you just realize, oh, I just need to go a little bit this way. And then focus on the spaces again and allow it. And just watch, just observe through the week the moments that you constrict into fear, and just take that time to ask what you believe in, the God of your understanding, how to see love in this moment. And if you're anything like me, it might take you a week. But that's okay. It just means you got to let a little bit more go, a little bit at a time, a little journaling, a little meditation, a little faith, a little trust, phone a friend. And if you hit another tree, that's okay too, because we're on this planet full of trees and we're going to run into them. But the beauty is the more you practice, the more in tune you get, the more clear you get, the more clarity comes, the more direct knowing you have, the freer you are. Then there are no trees. I invite you into that space this week, and let's ground this in prayer. I just know that there is only one power, one presence, one beloved, beautiful creator. We call it by many names, more than 99, I'm sure. And that this is our truth. This is our eternal essence. This is the thing that we are. And that as we move from the trees to the breeze, as we flow freely through and allowing it to navigate our lives, giving ourselves fully to it to the best that we can, that it helps us navigate, it in tunes, it becomes a momentum of fine skiing through life. And every now and then when we get stopped, we say, the discordant idea is released and given back to the Creator to handle for us, and it revives us, it enlivens us, it illuminates our true nature, so that it is taken into every idea, every space, every crack, everything in every part of our lives becomes better with freedom. That I just know if you're struggling, if you are ill, you have financial difficulties, you have relationships or communities or jobs, or you didn't get that promotion, or you didn't get that car, or you have credit issues, it doesn't matter. As you start to ski through the spaces, the divine nature of your highest and utmost self informs you the steps that you need to take, and then we move past the fear and we step into the greater reality that you can and you will and you do, and that faith binds you to the truth. And the next thing you know, that there's a new expression, and you will know it when you say, oh my God, I had a miracle. That this is the beauty of this community. This is the beauty of this teaching, and this is what we are bound to through our mission, our vision, and our principles. It is what we are carrying forth into our future. It is our growth. It is what we are standing on. And as we let go of any adversity, any conflict, we know that God is present here. That it sustains us, it enlivens us, it revigorates us, it heals us from the inside out. It awakens our body, minds, our emotions to be in tune with it, so that it may use us for its due good cause. I call this into your life and into mine, and anybody that's witnessing online, anybody that's walking by, and as you meet people, they will recognize your resonance, and they will ask you, I want some of what you got, and you will tell them where to get it. Oh, it's so beautiful. I am so happy. I am so elated to be in the flow of abundance. To recognize that you cannot take away from the fullness of God, that you cannot borrow, you cannot deplete, you cannot take away. The cup runneth over because the fullness of God is who you are. It is like taking an ounce out of the ocean. You do not deplete. It is always replenished. It is always given freely. It is who you are. It is what you are in tune with. It is the divine perfection of you. I release these words into the law knowing they cannot be returned void, because as we speak the truth is embodied in the heart, and it expands and expands and expands and grows the understanding. This is law. This is love. This is now. And so it is.